Okay, so recording. Thank you, Monique, for being here and presenting. Um, can you introduce yourself and let's talk about what workforce development in Jasper?
Yeah, totally. So my name is Monique Beaudry. I'm the Human Resource Manager at Jasper Hill Farm in Greensboro, way up here in the Northeast Kingdom. I live in Craftsbury, which is just the next town over from Greensboro. I come from 15 years of management experience with Starbucks, mostly in Boston and Burlington, all of Chittenden County. And then my husband and I, we built a house in Craftsbury, and I was able to find a local job that was great. So I've been at Jasper Hill for 2 years now, and it's super exciting. So a little bit about Jasper Hill. So our employees, so we have 2 farms with a mix of cows. We have 2 creameries where we make the cheese. We also have an aging facility, an underground aging facility, and then our admin staff. So total, we have about 75 employees. I was just looking at some of our statistics. About 80% of our employees are full-time, so mostly full-time employees. Our part-time really are people who are in school or have families or have another job, because as we know in Vermont, people have to cob together jobs, and we're happy to be full-time for a lot of people, but also to be able to provide that part-time for some people. Some other statistics, we have about 41% of our employees are under 35, so we have a young workforce. Almost 50% are under 40. And then something that I thought was interesting to share is that about 13 out of our 75 employees moved to Vermont, to the Northeast Kingdom, to work for us. So whether that's people, we have some employees from Brooklyn, we have someone from France, upstate New York, Austin, Texas, the Pacific Northwest. We actually have 3 people from there right now. Wyoming, New Mexico. These are people who we've reached out to, whether they're coming to us through an apprenticeship program or intern program, and then also experienced cheesemakers or someone in the industry. We're really lucky that in the cheese industry is very open, and it's a new industry, new as in the past 15, 18 years, so it is growing. We're very lucky. Our 2 owners or founders, Andy and Mateo, are very big in the cheese community, so they know a lot of people, and we like to be a place that people want to come and work for us, so it's really exciting. Thinking the flow of this, if there's any questions along the way, totally interrupt me or send a chat question out and I can answer that. I wanted to talk about a few hiring challenges. So I just got a little bit of data here, just talking about the population of Vermont and projected population going forward. So you can see this is just a breakdown on the left of counties and change percentage, what we think like a low scenario versus a high scenario. So obviously some counties are seeing a lot of growth, or could potentially see a lot of growth. We're here in Orleans County. We're looking kind of on a low scenario pretty flat, but with a growth potential in the high scenario. I see Rutland County, definitely population going down. So in general, how do we get people to stay in Vermont, move to Vermont? I was just at the Worksite Wellness, the Governor's Worksite Wellness Conference in South Burlington, and the governor was there saying, how do we attract young people to come to our state? How do we get them to stay? I was reading some crazy statistics, I don't remember off the top of my head, but how many of our young people either go to college here or leave the state to go to college and then don't return? How do we get them to stay? How do we value that, and or get other young people who aren't from Vermont to move here? And then the other chart there is talking about most frequent labor pool and hiring challenges that employers have. So things from challenges to find job seekers who want to enter this field for cheese making and aging and farming. You kind of have to know that you want to enter into it. So the approach we take is how do we introduce it to people? trying to find candidates with a strong work ethic. Applicants don't pass a drug or background test. That's a huge thing in Vermont right now. High turnover, the hours are hard to attract those reliable applicants, difficult to find good candidates in Vermont who want to relocate here. And then one of the bigger things is difficult to find qualified, skilled, motivated applicants. So we know we have challenges. What can we do in this day and age to try to find new people? So the first thing, it's kind of, everyone should know, but an effective job description is a huge part about attracting employees. So I just broke it down really quick. I'm not going to spend a lot of time on it, but you want to have a title. You want to have a little something about your company. So for us, we do an about us, just telling, someone might not know who Jasper Hill is. Just saying what we do, kind of what our mission, how the job will kind of relate to what we're trying to do here. A position summary, just a quick, something that's going to grab someone's attention, like, oh, I really want to be a part of this. And then simple duties and responsibilities, knowledge and skills, some physical requirements to meet some American with Disabilities Act. If someone is required at the cellars, there's a lot, and on the farms, a lot of heavy lifting, bending, twisting, working in cold environments, working in really warm environments, making sure that those applying actually know what is required in the job. And then at the bottom, how do you apply? For us, we do anything from send us an email, stop by, drop us off an application. We have our application on our website that they can print out and bring in, or they can scan it and send it to us. Lots of different ways.
Monique, I have a question.
Yeah.
I'll just put my video back on. So where do you post your job description? How do you get that? How do you get the word out there? And I'm talking about in-state and of course out of state.
Yeah. So you jump right to my next slide. Great transition, thank you. So recruitment, how do we get people to know? So first we have this great job description. So what's the next step? So we do everything. The first thing, your website. Off on the right here is an example of what the employment link on our website. So we always keep that up to date. Things are always changing here. We're always hiring for different positions. We obviously are always taking applications, and we always tell people that. Even in my past life at Starbucks, people would come in and say, "Are you hiring?" And you're like, "We're always hiring." If we find the right person, you want to see, like, have that list of people that you're going to call when turnover happens, as we know. I do a lot of posting on Indeed. We're a larger company, but I still do post through Indeed.com as a free post. So you can pay more money to have it be sent out to more people and be at the top of people's job searches. But I've had really good luck posting for free. You can pay, you set parameters, say, okay, I want to spend $10 a day and I only want to do it for a week, and see if it actually increases your clicks. They'll tell you, you'll get a little report about how many people clicked on your job. Signs up at your location. Definitely if you have like a farm stand or a restaurant, you would obviously put up signs, we're hiring, something attractive like come join our team. Definitely listing your benefits on your hiring materials is what's gonna attract people. You're trying to sell your job to somebody, definitely someone who, if you're trying to woo them, you're going to tell them all your benefits. Let's see, social media is huge. In the middle there, I just took a little screenshot of what a past post had been. We have obviously a lot of followers on social media. I'm not sure right now, but in the tens of thousands. So when we're posting that we're hiring, so many people are going to click. And I see a lot of sharing, whether it's, I think on this one, it says 69 shares, and then a lot of comments where people are calling their friends out, and then they'll be linked to it. This was through marketing. I just talked to our marketing team and I said, hey, can we post on social media that we're hiring? This was a video of a new cheese turning robot that we purchased, and trying to be a little funny, it said we're hiring, but the cheddar robot position has been filled. So something that will catch someone's eye. I see a lot of other clever ways of posting that you're hiring. Yeah, so think outside the box. Obviously local, in Vermont, Front Porch Forum is really great. I put over on the left, we purchased an ad through Front Porch Forum. It was pretty affordable. I don't know if anyone has used that for recruitment. You can say you choose the counties that you really want to target, and then they sell you so many ads. So it would be posted this many time in like a 3-week time span. They're really great at working with you too. If you're like, this is my budget, and they'll say, okay, this is how the best bang for your buck. And I know when I was going through my own Front Porch Forum that I get every day in Craftsbury, seeing our ad there, I saw it probably 10 times in 3 weeks. So the probability was high that someone saw that as well. Your current employees, what a great way for recruitment. They might not know what jobs you're looking for. So literally I would send out an email to everybody and say, hey, not sure, we're looking for somebody on the farm. Do you know anyone who has any experience or has been looking to work with us? Even at my time at Starbucks, I would also talk to friends, employees, and ask them if they had any friends or family who are looking for jobs as well. The Department of Labor is also a really good resource as far as maybe there's someone from another organization that could be a really good fit for you. Hiring fairs, there's obviously lots of those going on. We, being in agriculture, we target like the VTC, to the ag department that they have. Their program is really great. So every year I want to go and reach out to those new students that are coming out of that program. How can we convince them to stay here? Also, you could set up your own hiring fair. In the past with Starbucks, I would set up hiring fairs and do on-the-spot interviews, which is really awesome. Or even here at Jasper Hill, before me, they would set up a hiring fair with local businesses around. Let's say a lot of this local food, there's a farm, there's someone producing kimchi and the sellers, and we all get together and we had like 10 or 12 different employers, and we put it out there to the local community that we were having a hiring fair, and there was a lot of people that showed up. So if there's not a hiring fair that fits your needs, make one.
Monique, is there a specific channel that you target for certain positions, basically?
Yeah, so absolutely. So posting on Facebook is the whole country is really seeing our post, as well as LinkedIn is another great way you can post jobs. It's a paid, you have to pay to post a job through LinkedIn, but those are for us more the people we're recruiting, whether it's a management position or a marketing or sales position, cheesemakers for us, even some farmers, some higher level farmers who've been in the business for a long time would also have a LinkedIn account. But then, so the backbone of a lot of our employment, like I said, if only 13 are outside of Vermont and moved here, it's the local community. So yes, Facebook and LinkedIn attracts the local community, but also I think the Front Porch Forum and even just a newspaper ad, if you're looking for local people, that's the way to really target those people. So if I was looking for someone to work in the sellers turning cheddar, I might not post that specifically on Facebook. And another thing that comes to mind is when we post something like this on social media, we're directing them to our website to see our actual postings. We're not filling up someone's newsfeed with a posting. It's directed to the website, and then that way I can manage it and put more than one. Like I did with the Front Porch Forum posting, I didn't put specific jobs that we were hiring, more please go to our website and see what we're actually hiring. Maybe if you were really desperate and looking for something, that's when you would do more of the specific posting. Another good food jobs is another great place to post. Also knowing your who you're recruiting. So if you're recruiting like for us, the American Cheese Society, we can post jobs there. That's where people in the cheese industry are going to go and look to see if there's jobs that are open. The good food jobs, again, those are the people that we're looking to hire would be going to a website like that to see what jobs are available. I'm thinking even when I was with Starbucks and I was recruiting people just to work in my stores, I would have a business card with our benefits on the back, and I would hand it out when I would get great customer service, because I would be hiring people for customer service. And I wouldn't want to say that I was poaching people, but just, hey, if you wanted a job with health insurance, give me a call. And sometimes that would work, sometimes it wouldn't. But I think people were flattered to be recognized that they had outstanding customer service, and always be recruiting, I guess is what I'm saying. Yeah, I think that's a lot of different ways recruiting. On the left, there's also, this is just like a hiring card that we had put out, that we would, we used it obviously on our social media, but also at hiring events. And again, just letting people know to check our website, jasperhillfarm.com/employment. And then also that they can always email me anything, resume, cover letter, to work@jasperhillfarm.com.
Hey, Monique.
Sorry, I didn't know.
All right, sorry about that. Do you work with high schools at all?
Yeah, so a great resource, the local high school here, we've done a little bit of talking about job shadowing, tours for people. For us, we have everything from farmers, cheesemakers, milk truck drivers, people who age the cheese, all the way up to marketing, microbiology, chemistry, sales. So bringing them in first, just showing them the different jobs that we have. And going forward, I actually have a meeting next week with on-site work coordinator at the high school, and seeing what kind of relationships we can have for internships for students. So we see that obviously as showing someone a really great job and a great skill, but also maybe it's a path someone didn't realize they could take.
So actually, I have a question, this is Tara. What about, we talked about like interns, apprenticeships. Those are usually for a set period of time.
Yep.
Sometimes, and what do you do for housing for them? Do they find their own housing? Do you provide or give them ideas, or how does that work exactly?
Yeah, so we have like two different programs. So being that we're in cheese making, we try to attract in the summer students from France, who in France there's huge agricultural dairy schools, trying to attract some of them to come and work with us for the summer. So that's a whole nother level of visas and getting them here. Last summer we had 2 from France, and this summer we also have 2 that are slated to come. They're going to be here for 13 weeks. They're still in school, so there's requirements on their education, what they need to, that most of them have to work on a project while they're here, and then when they go back they have a presentation about what they learned, and that they're actually providing some value to us as well. In those cases we have housing, local housing that we rent, and then we put our interns there, and then we actually pay them minimum wage, and then they are not going to have a car here, so between all the people who work here, we drive them around, pick them up, bring them here, take them to the store, and then we have a more intensive apprenticeship program. So this is attracting people more in the cheese industry to come and live here in the beautiful Northeast Kingdom for 6 to 9 months and work. So we've had 2 pretty successful sets of apprentices come through in the past year. We really stress that we hope that they have at least visited us before they decide to move from Seattle to come live in Greensboro, Vermont. Winters are hard, mud season's hard. Summer's beautiful, spring's beautiful, fall's beautiful, but we really want to make sure that this is a right fit for them. So one of our past apprentices, he was actually from Vermont. he was living out west, and he was home visiting, and we had a great interview and saw the work here, and we knew that we wanted to bring him in as an apprentice. And so we obviously knew the area in Vermont. So he started his apprenticeship in January, and it's working out really well. So yeah, finding housing. As anybody who's moving here, we try to support them in finding housing. There's not a lot here in Greensboro. That's something that we've obviously recognized. But we do have some resources that we can help people a place to land when they first get here. And then we have a list of potential places that they could hook up with to rent for either month to month, or hopefully they stay and want to buy a house and be a part of the community. Yeah. So we think, or we know that the apprenticeship program and the internship program, we're building relationships with schools, and we're also building relationships with specific people. And the hope is that maybe it'll turn into a job at the end of the apprenticeship. And if not, then we say that's fine. We've both learned a lot. They've learned a lot from us. We've gotten work out of them, and they can just go and spread the good word of cheese of us here. So we don't think of apprenticeships as being something that we're not both gaining something out of. Yeah. Do you guys have any other questions specifically around recruiting?
No, not right now. I think that's a lot of information.
Yeah.
It's good information. I'm interested in, we talk about recruitment, and then it's natural for me anyway to think about retention, of course.
Yes. So how do we retain people? It's like I paid you to make this flow so nice. Thank you, Tara. So how do we keep people? So training is a huge part of retaining people. So we're investing in our future. So having really clear goals and outcomes from the beginning. On the left is a little example of a training plan for a new person who would just be working in the cellars, learning about aging the cheese. So they're going to be really focused on a certain task for a short amount of time. They'll know who to report to. They'll know what their schedule will be, what the days are about going to look like, what training they're expected to see soon. And then having really engaging resources. So not something boring, not someone just speaking at them. We have some great PowerPoint presentations, some great videos, some great training resource manuals that we've created that have a lot of documentation inside, but there's also pictures and like how to. Also going back to my Starbucks years, providing those goals and interactions, those successes, opportunities are huge. Giving that praise, but also what can we do better? What can we do better next time? Having a really consistent schedule so that they know what's going to be happening. Something here that Andy and Mateo have always felt really strongly about is a good work-life balance. Also, we may start work early, but we get out early so we can go to our kids' soccer game. Really knowing what your employees need and how we can retain them in a schedule as well. Also, my time at Starbucks or the restaurant industry is really hard. You're open a lot of places really early and really late. Finding those people that really like working those late shifts, or finding people who really like to come in early and do all that prep, and really keeping those people in those schedules is going to help you retain somebody. And then bridging the gap between knowledge versus action. So it's not a lot of just reading, being talked at. It is a lot of hands-on. We always say things like, this is what learning looks like. Problems happen. How do we fix that? How do we address it? No one just starts a job and knows how to do everything. So providing that really solid base of training from the beginning is how you're going to hopefully retain them for a long time.
And just a quick question regarding training and retention, and I see this schedule up here, this consistent schedule. Mm-hmm. How do your teams work basically for training? Is that who you work with is an important part of how you work and how successful your organization will be. Do you have anything you'd want to share regarding that in regards to training new employees or retaining new employees?
Yeah. You saying that really reminds me, I often tell people, so people are doing a fair amount of repetitive tasks. There's a lot of that in restaurant industry, in agriculture, in manufacturing. People might not like repeating the task over and over, but they enjoy the people they're working with and the company that they're working for. So I may not like picking this 35-pound cheddar up and putting it down and then doing it again, do it again, do it again. But I like who I'm working with. I like the product. The mission is huge. The other part of your question was retaining, how the training. Yeah, so I think a big part of that is knowing like the company structure and like who to go to, who's your boss, who's your direct supervisor, who's your trainer, who's that person that you can feel comfortable going to and being like, hey, I don't think this worked out the way that it should have, and they know that that's a safe relationship to have that conversation, and there is some room to grow. So here it's really important to lay out that structure. Like, as a new person, they know who they're reporting to, they know who they'll be working with mostly, and who has the knowledge and has been there and can be, this is our way of doing it. Obviously, there's a lot of food safety requirements at the cellars in the aging facility. So the training here is pretty intense, and we throw a lot of information at people. We don't actually, no one is considered trained until they've worked for a month, which is a really long time. I know at Starbucks, it was at least 2 weeks before someone was actually like a full-fledged barista, and having really clear, specific steps, and this is where you're starting and this is where you're going to end up. But also that means then you have to have really great people who are in the training position and who are the supervisors. A lot of managers or supervisors end up in that position just because they were really good at doing their job. Are they also really good at managing people? Are they good at coaching conversations? Are they good at providing feedback? Hopefully, yes. Hopefully those people, they're identified in that. If not, hopefully there's a way that you can provide that type of training for people with new management responsibilities is also really huge. There's so much learning on the internet now, like this webinar. There's webinars on how to be a trainer, how to be a coacher, how to deal with difficult people. All that information is out there. And again, if you don't know something, I'm always like, go out and find it, figure it out, and have a culture in your company that will support that. It was really great.
Can you talk a little bit about, you mentioned mission, of course,
Yeah.
and how important that is. Can you talk a little bit about how you bring that from beginning to,
Yeah.
throughout the hiring process and employment?
So hopefully someone is starting, we have the mix of people, like I said here, people who have moved here to work for us because they know about our mission, they know about our company, and then people who don't know anything about cheese, or they know who we are, but don't really know who we are. So in the onboarding process, we're going through the mission, we're talking about it. The same thing happened at Starbucks. I've been really fortunate to work for 2 companies that are mission-driven companies. It wasn't just a statement that was written and never looked at again. That choices or decisions that the company had to make, they actually weighed against their mission statement. And it's something that as an employee, you can feel really proud of. So both businesses did that. So obviously setting that expectation from the beginning with the employee, but then also always talking about the mission. It's something that we have a company meeting that we're bringing up our mission, and everyone's talking like, hey, do you actually know what our mission is? Is it something that you can articulate? Yeah, so I think like a smaller company starting up, like having a mission and really understanding what you're trying to do, that's how your employees are gonna be behind you and support you in your goals and your mission. And for us, if one of our main missions is to like support local agriculture. It's amazing that we have people moving here from Seattle who also want to support that. Then we also have locals who want to see farms around, who want to keep that here in Vermont. And I think that applies to everybody in the Vermont Fresh Network for sure. But a lot of Vermont, we just want to, we want a mission of keeping good local food here. I hope that answers your question.
Oh, definitely. That was good. I was sorry, I was on mute there. I thought that was very good, because I would also say that the consistency of that message, basically, for everyone, and for everyone to understand, to be on the same page, basically.
Yeah, and know that any decisions, you're not just like, oh, that doesn't make any sense. Oh, when you think about it, it makes sense with what our mission and the company is. So when changes have to happen, I know change is hard. Change is hard for everybody. But if something has to change, you understand, because you can see where it aligns with your mission and your values. Yeah. I have another slide. How do we retain people? Training, obviously, like we were just talking about, but also total pay is something that we talk about a lot. You offer someone a wage, that's great. A lot of employees, that's the only thing they're really looking for is the wage, but we definitely talk about our total pay package. So we're very fortunate here at Jasper Hill to offer people health insurance and a 401k match. If you're a smaller company that can't do that, your products, making sure that there's a really easy process for your employees to eat your cheese, eat your veggies, have a meal at a restaurant, that they're talking about the food that they're producing, that they're serving to customers. They should be eating it. They should be enjoying it. How else are they going to speak really genuinely about it if they're not eating it and sharing it? We get a lot of free cheese here at Jasper Hill. With Starbucks, we got free coffee, and we were always encouraged to share it with other people. So, I mean, number one, it's good for the business to have your product shared with more people that might not have had access to it or known about it. But also, I feel proud when I can put out a nice spread of cheese that I've been a part of and share with family and friends. Doing trades with other businesses. It can be, you grow veggies, how do you trade it with a cheese producer? Or there's someone that's making coffee, how do you trade what you have for coffee? And then that's something that you can share with your employees. Not everything is monetary. Housing. Yeah, go ahead.
No, I was sorry. I was going to say another aspect of that, of course, that's part of building community.
Yeah, a trade system, amazing, right? Yeah, making connections with other businesses, just like we're doing now, is awesome. Housing relocation assistance, whether it's monetary or as simple as like, hey, I know this guy, you can stay with him for a short amount of time while you figure out where you're going to live. Wellness plans. Are you a company that really focus on wellness and health? Is it like a smoking cessation, making sure people get up and stretch throughout the day if they're sitting at a desk, or events where it's not just focused around decadent foods and sitting around or drinking. We're going for a hike, we're doing like a family hike day, or we're all cross-country skiing. There's a lot of things that don't cost money that have a huge impact on your employees, whether it's you bring a masseuse in, or we pay for part of someone's chiropractic needs, or anything like that. Family meals, if you are able to, especially with all of us in the food industry, making some great, delicious food. There's so many, especially at Jasper Hill, there's so many people who like food, and we have so much food around us, and we're often eating together. So why isn't it organized that we have family meals? Company events, whether it's educational or having a good time, your like annual holiday party, or you have a summer bonfire, just those extra things that make you feel part of the company is hopefully how you're retaining someone. On the other side is kind of how we're attracting people. So Wi-Fi is a huge deal for this generation, my generation, everyone's generation now. Having Wi-Fi and cell service if it's not available, like here in Greensboro, we don't really have a lot of self-service, but making sure that Wi-Fi is available, letting them know the best phone they can have to make calls over Wi-Fi, making someone's move easy, the distance to stores and other services is also huge. Here in Greensboro, we have the Willie's store. We all buy all of our things here at the Willie's store, but it's something that people ask me a lot. Like, I'm like, well, I drive about 25 minutes to go to a big grocery store. I do it maybe every 2 weeks. It's just how I do it. Other local events, especially if you are trying to convince someone to move to a rural area, knowing if the nightlife is or what other events are happening in your area. If it's a young family, what the school situation is, really knowing what people are saying about the school, what school they would be going to if they're living in your area. Loan forgiveness was something I wanted to throw on there because there's been a lot of talk about, there's a lot of loan forgiveness for like the healthcare services, but there's been talk about including agriculture in there. How do we get young people to get into agriculture, farming, vegetable farming, dairy farming? I think loan forgiveness is a great way. There is a bill right now that's in the House, I think, trying to add agriculture onto loan forgiveness. So something to look at in the future. And then the last thing, like making sure that they visit the area, get them here. We often, we have a lot of customers who come here anyway, or cheesemakers come to visit. I always am putting that out there. I'm like, oh, when's the next time you're in Vermont? We'd love to show you around, show you what we're doing, see if this is really a good fit for them as well as us. Yeah, just spending that time, making that connection. Something that I did remember, I was talking beforehand with Tara, we were talking about the different ways that people apply, that we have so many different ways, again, through email, just walking up and giving me a handwritten application, sending a resume and references and a cover letter, that I treat all of them the same. I'm gonna reach out to everybody. I'm gonna say, thanks, I received your information. These are the next steps that we're taking for this position, or, oh, we just filled this position, but I will absolutely happily keep your information on file for future opportunities. It actually just happened to us. We were hiring for a position that we hired a similar position last year, and I kept all those resumes from last year, and I reached out to a good 5 of them that were really great candidates at the time, and we actually ended up hiring one of those. Even though I posted and we had applicants, I ended up hiring someone who we didn't hire at the time last year, but it ended up being a really good fit this year.
You were mentioning you've been there 2 years, and prior to that, you'd been at Starbucks, 15 as I recall.
Yeah.
How would you say that even over just the last 2 years, and you can talk about that, how recruitment, outreach, etc., or how HR has changed basically,
Yeah.
or for that matter, like what you've done to tweak it or make it even more successful?
Yeah. Well, coming from Chittenden County where there were so many people, that was a huge shock for me. Even my time through Starbucks, the change in applications. When I first started, people were handwriting applications and then sending them in. Someone who wrote in purple, I'd be like, not going to hire you. Don't write an application in purple. But then it switched when I was there to all online. Everyone had to apply online through this process. So that did have some barriers for some people. Switching over to that, but it seemed pretty seamless after a while. And then coming here, we don't have cell service. Getting people on phones is really hard. A lot of people who live around here don't have a house phone anymore. I don't have a house phone. I just use my cell phone, calls over Wi-Fi. There's a lot of digital communication now. I was actually just reading an article about how a lot of larger companies are even starting communication through digital channels. So for me, I absolutely do that first. I have a list of canned questions that I send to someone. If they've applied through Indeed, there's these 5 questions. Can you answer them? It's just starting the conversation with the person. I was also reading a company was doing like a chatting service. So they're actually literally like texting on a chat service as the first step to the interview process to see how they're responding. I'm sure it was some tech digital company that was doing that, but it's less of a pick up a phone and talk to somebody off the cuff. It was funny, I was talking with my siblings this past weekend over Easter, and we were saying, when you're making a phone call now, you're like scheduling a time to talk to somebody. You're not just picking up a phone and talking to somebody anymore. So there's a little bit more management of that. Skyping, we definitely do a fair amount of Skype interviewing, especially I'm talking to someone in France about a potential internship. I'm Skyping with them. You get to really interact with that person. For us, we're seeing how great is their English, how can we communicate, but also someone in New Mexico you can Skype with, and you've known they've come to the area before and they know what the area looks like. So we really just want to have a candid conversation as in person as possible. So things have changed a lot. I think it's pretty awesome that it's less formal, I guess, but still formal. I guess that transitions into my, like, what's my process? Like, I receive an application, start some email or phone conversation, and then we end up bringing someone in for an interview. It's more of a, let me show you what we're doing, see how great they are at following our food safety rules. I feel a lot from my time with Starbucks, we would say hire the smile. Like, we're hiring people that you want to work with and be around. So if it's someone that you feel a connection with, I'm sure there's probably a reason. I always say I could teach anyone to make a latte, but I couldn't teach someone to smile. You can definitely get that through Skype, over the phone, but that in-person interview is really important. And then hopefully you have a lot of people to choose from, and then you can choose the best fit for your business.
What do you think, what would you say is your greatest challenge at Jasper? Like, there are challenges in Vermont, just in area, but what would you say for Jasper Hill anyway?
Yeah, so finding people with, people with experience in cheese making, or people who understand the hard work, the hot temperatures you're working in, the food safety requirements. But I think that we've been successful in this challenge, that we're thinking outside the box. Someone who works in production at a brewery would understand the fast-paced requirements. Some of the food safety were a little bit more than a brewer, but then also some strange hours. So we're trying to think outside the box and pair up occupations that might make sense. Thinking outside the box, even farmers, we're saying, I was talking to our director of farms and he was like, I never milked a cow until I milked a cow. Or even Andy and Mateo, when they first started Jasper Hill, they had never milked a cow before, never made cheese before. They had to learn sometimes. So if we're willing to take a chance on somebody because they have all these other great qualities, we're willing to teach people. So yeah. Any other questions?
Yeah. I think that, I was just thinking about, your employees in training, basically. And do you have any systems for them to go out, get training, and then come back, go to another cheesemaker, come back, that sort of, just that employee development and, investing in your employees?
Yeah. Oh, yes, absolutely. So much education happens here. Someone who has demonstrated that they want to know more about cheese, whether they work in the cellars, even within our company, that there's so many different aspects of the business they can learn. So they might go and spend time making cheese, even though they're from the cellars. And we know that we or helping to retain them, give them more training. They understand the process that we're doing on this side way better. And then it gives us flexibility, which is another awesome thing for coverage and employees, who's cross-trained to work in what location, since we're doing so many different things. And then we definitely encourage employees to check out other cheesemakers. I can think of someone who was just traveling home and was like, hey, I want to stop in at this cheesemaker over here. And we're like, yeah, we'll make the connection for you. Go in, see what they're doing, see what you can bring back to us. Farms, oh, absolutely. Our director of farms is going to other people's farms. He comes from a background of dairy and research, so encouraging more education for our farmers. Yeah.
I'll just pop in here. So what about the time commitment for in-house training? How do you balance that, basically, with managers and, for employees? How much time is spent?
Yeah, so in Starbucks, like I said, it was we would say people weren't really trained for like a month. You're really investing in someone. So obviously finding that right person is really important because of the time investment that you're putting into them. They would always provide us, that was a metric we were always measuring, like what's your turnover, because there's a huge cost associated with training, bringing new people in, disrupting your work environment, and your customers are like, oh, where's that regular person? My barista, I don't know who they are. But the same obviously holds true for cheese making and aging. There's that learning curve. Even at Starbucks, as a manager, we would tell people it'll be a whole year before you feel comfortable and you've seen everything. So investing in training is huge. Retaining them. At the cellars, we're constantly doing more and more training. So we're refreshing people on good manufacturing practices, on what chemicals we use, personal safety. Training is a huge investment. We can't stress that enough, that as an organization, you have to know that you're going to spend time and money and resources on training people. It's huge. So you have to have managers and supervisors who understand that and have that buy-in, but also owners and high-level executive management has to understand, like, training is huge, huge time commitment. And then also making it look like you know what you're doing when you're training somebody, that you have a good plan and it's not just willy-nilly. Then the employee feels, oh, I don't think they know what they're doing. It's really challenging.
And what about families of employees?
Yeah.
And I mean, that's, we talk about out of state, we talk about in state, someone coming from out of state or people in the area. You discussed like work-life balance, of course, but how does that, can you just talk a little bit about that? And even family leave, that sort of thing.
Yeah. Trying to be as flexible as possible. Obviously, there's laws around what you have to do. And in Vermont, there's some great now with earned sick time requirements that have to be, you have to give sick time, earned sick time to your employees. And those amounts are going to go up at the end of 2018 as well. We're lucky here at Jasper Hill that our owners value time off. So we have a pretty generous pay time off package that if you're here, it's based on tenure, you get more and more. And we're also lucky here that we have a fair amount of employees, so we can grant that time off. A smaller organization, it's always hard. At Starbucks, if we had a store that only had 10 employees, you really have to plan it out and communicate. So it's all about planning. Let's say you're on a farm, like, you need everybody, all hands on deck all summer. How do you accommodate people trying to take time off? Knowing who can work a little extra here, and it's a give and take. So I guess just being as flexible as possible. And obviously you want to be a great place for families to work. So someone's sick, your kid's sick, you're gonna have to go. You gotta take someone to the doctors. We need to have some flexibility. We have to be a company with a conscience that is humane and we understand we have to do the work, but we also understand that we're people and our employees are people, and our employees are the biggest resource, the biggest spend, but also the biggest resource that we have in a company as well.
So what would you recommend then for smaller companies that maybe don't have an HR manager, or let's say it's a small company and they do want to bring a process in, but they don't have an HR manager. What sort of recommendations would you have for that?
Yeah, more as if
basically,
presenting maybe a plan, like a thought out plan that if you only have 6 employees, like how would this actually work? Thinking outside the box, thinking, well, if we did this, then maybe this person could work here. And instead of just saying, this is a problem, we need to fix it, try to find a solution, offer a solution. Maybe it's those connections. If it's, you have a small dairy farm and there's another dairy farm in the area, like how can you share resources, I think is also really great. Whether it's,
do you recommend, sorry, I just figured the video might be better so you can see my expression. What about specific resources for people who have a smaller company who don't have, can you recommend anything? Or
you mean like how they would create a policy, or
best practices, information?
Yeah, so maybe something we do here in the Northeast Kingdom is a lot of smaller businesses get together on a weekly basis. And I know when Andy Mateo started up Jasper Hill, they were meeting with other people in startups and bouncing ideas off each other. Even though we're a little bigger now, we still meet with people. I meet with other human resource managers or people in that position, whether it's just a bookkeeper that also happens to do human resources and benefit management and also make the product. And we're bouncing ideas. They're like, hey, I have this employee that blah, blah, blah. What would you do? So I think finding local businesses, not being afraid to have those conversations, or like, oh, I might say the wrong thing. Talk it through with somebody that has gone through it, or
and
might great recommendation.
Yeah, and well, how often then do you take a look at your HR practices and adapt or change or tweak, or to make things better for your employees, to make the whole process more optimized and good for everyone?
Yeah, we're always thinking about what other benefits we can offer, whether it's monetarily or not. We also, we're lucky enough to have our handbook reviewed by an employment lawyer. We have the resources that we're able to pay for the support. But also, I think half of it is someone who's been at the company for a long time. Like, let's bounce these ideas off each other. How are we gonna deal with this issue right now? I think it's something that we're always thinking about, and I could see as a small company it could be hard to prioritize that. You're like, I have all these to-do lists, and like benefits or how to retain people might be the last thing, and it's really hard to train people. It's really hard to have high turnover, so the time that you spend in trying to retain people is huge. Obviously, we all know when that like right-hand person leaves, all that work just falls off. So valuing the people that work for you as a resource as much as any other resource that you have is huge.
Do you have any, as we're coming to the end of our talk here and your presentation, do you have any thoughts on what you would like to see eventually, or how, for Jasper Hill, or what are you working towards basically in an employee just training, or in general basically for HR? And what I would say, what do you see in the future?
I often say a lot, I'm like, we're not perfect, we're still trying to figure things out. And I know it's hard as an employee going to an organization and think that they have everything figured out where we don't. So maybe there's a point where we'll have everything figured out. Probably not. Just being better at processes. How are we, the retention, our turnover, looking at those numbers. How are we going to be the best employer in the area? I mean, having 75 employees in Greensboro is huge. Like, we're a really large employer in the area. Can we be bigger? Is there growth? We think there is growth in our future. So I think that would be awesome. have more dairy farms, have more jobs in the area, paying a living wage, providing those benefits, being a job that someone can raise a family on is awesome, and a great goal that we would have.
And what about balance, basically, men, women, just of people of varying points of views and diversity, and where does that come in for your
we have a good mix of obviously diversity is huge and awesome to have in your workplace. I know from personal experience working in Boston and Burlington, like having a Starbucks that's super diverse, it might be someone that you wouldn't think you ever got along with. I know when I was just starting with Starbucks, I was working with somebody, I'm like, this person, they're so different than me. Like, this is never going to, but to be able to open your eyes and be like, wow, we have a lot in common. We work together, finding all this common ground, and then myself growing in my role and being able to create that for other people and see these mixes of people who are working together. It's just making a great work environment and hope for the future, I guess, if it's too cheesy, but that you can see all these diverse people, diverse political backgrounds and everything just working together. And we're just trying to do something good in the area and making it positive.
Yeah, and I would also say, you have people from other countries.
Yeah. It's pretty awesome. Yeah. People from Chile and France and Greece, everywhere. It's pretty great. Yeah.
It seems like that's a good opportunity for other employees to learn and
culture. Yeah.
Okay. So do you have any last point words or what you have to say? We're going to have this video, of course, posted on the VFN website with more resources on workforce development. But do you have anything else that you'd like to?
I think the biggest part is like being positive. Thinking about every day if I have a new job that I'm going to be posting and I'm going to be hiring, it's so exciting for me I'm going to be talking to a lot of people. I'm going to be selling our company to somebody. I've changed my mind at Starbucks, I was selling to customers, but now I think of my employees as my customers, that I'm trying to make this the best experience that they can have, and to convince somebody to come and work for me because I know it'll be such a great fit is really exciting. So every day is something new, and I enjoy going to work every day. So it's exciting. So I hope everyone also can create that and be a part of that in their life.
Yeah. Oh, phone ring. Okay. Well, yeah, like I said, it'll be on the VermontFresh.net website. And so if someone wants to apply and work with Jasper Hill, what do they have to do?
Yeah, send me an email. There's my email, Monique@JasperHillFarm.com, or give me a call, show up. And if anybody has any other questions about like retention or hiring or job descriptions, absolutely feel free to reach out. I know that we're part of the Fresh Network, and we just want to make better places to work, and how can we all be on the same page?
Great. Well, thank you so much for talking today about workforce development. It's been very interesting, and I'm sure I'll maybe shoot you a couple of questions just for resources afterwards. But thank you so much. I'm going to stop recording now. But like I said, it's going to be on VermontFresh.net afterwards. So for people who weren't able to watch it, they can kind of use this as a resource and learn from you. Thank you.
Yeah, thanks.